My name is Robin Lawley, as you can probably see, and I'm the leader of the Breathing Arts team of the International Breathwork Foundation. And our mission is bring together the world of conscious breathing and creative artistic expression. And so every month we are pleased to welcome presenters from the world of breathwork, from the world of art. And today we are really happy to welcome Paul Hughes of Vivation International. Welcome, Paul. And I'm just going to pass the word on to Orlando, who is also on the Breathing Arts team, just to introduce himself, and then we'll hand it over to Paul and we'll get going.
Hello, everyone. My name is Orlando, also part of the IBF Breathing Arts Group. I help out with the social media aspect as well. But here in this session, if you run into any technical difficulties during the session, you can definitely direct message me or through the Zoom chat, and I'll do my best to help you on the tech side as well.
Okay. So thank you, Orlando. So over to you, Paul. Welcome.
Great. Glad to be here. So I'll just assume that nobody here has heard of Vivation, so I'll just quickly say what that is. That's one of the original breath workers. It sort of forked off from rebirthing back in 1979. And today what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about my journey as an artist, and specifically how Vivation was key in helping unlock and allow my creative energy to flow. So that's the first thing I'm going to talk about today. And then what I'll do, because Robin's generously giving me time here, is I'm going to walk you guys through a set of experiential exercises, mostly with the breath. So basically the beginning of Vivation itself, teaching you a little bit about how it works, get you breathing, get you feeling. And then we're going to intersperse it with some creative exercises. So before I get going too far, I would ask that you have either a pen or a pencil and maybe some paper. And when I ask you to do, we're going to do some creative work with that. So this is going to be almost entirely experiential. Before I do that, let me go ahead and just describe a little bit about my journey. So I grew up in a pretty conservative family. There wasn't any artist in my family. I was adopted. So it's possible that I had some kind of propensity or inclination to do art, but generally speaking, it wasn't really done in our household. And in fact, I would go so far as to say it was somewhat frowned upon. My father was wanting all of us to become very successful and, get a job with a big company or go off and be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. And so the few times that I started to do any kind of creative work, he wouldn't poo-poo it necessarily, but he would always remind me, don't go down that road too far because you'll just end up as a starving artist. And so this is when I heard about the starving artist thing. But the reason I mention this is because even though he meant well, there was some deep emotional sort of block or sadness or something that said, don't go down that road. Don't be creative. And that's how that's how me as a child sort of interpreted that. And so for most of my adult life, up until my 40s, early 40s, my 50s now, anytime I would go and try to do something creative, I would end up getting a block. I'd find something stopping me. And at this point, I had a new tool, Vivation, to help me work through that. And so what I started to do initially was get out just a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil and start to draw and notice what feelings would come up. And in Vivation, we call this activation. An activated feeling is any feeling that comes up in a breathing session that in that moment you're not okay with. And this doesn't even have to be in a session, just period. So anytime in life, we get an activated experience or feeling in the body that we're not okay with in that moment. We call it activation. And Jim Leonard, the father of Vivation, would say that when that happens, we have two choices. The first choice is we can suppress it. We can make it go away so that we don't feel it. And there's many things we can do to suppress it. Have a cup of hot chocolate, watch TV, Many may do drugs. There's many different things that people do to not feel feelings. The other option is that we can integrate that feeling. We can include it and we can allow it to flow and allow it to become an expression of who we are, because it is who we are. And what turns out is that anytime we have a negative experience, a negative feeling, it's never really the feeling itself, but rather our resistance around it or to it. In Vivation, we call this make wrong. So what we're learning to do when we do Vivation with the circular conscious connected breathing is we're learning to relax and breathe through it, and just allowing those feelings to be there and cultivating unconditional kindness, unconditional love for yourself in the presence of those feelings, and allowing them to make peace with them. And what ends up happening is these blocks that come up, these emotional sort of blocks, get resolved. And so the proposition I'm making is that when we can do this, when we can let go of our blocks, emotional or otherwise, our innate intrinsic capacity to create is allowed to come out. It's kind of like you're keeping a lid on the pot and now you're allowing it to come out. And so when you talk to some of or not talk to them because many of them are dead, but when you hear stories of some of the greatest artists of all time, they often describe what the experience of the act of creation as sort of being a conduit. Mozart talked a lot about this. He felt that he was simply an instrument of God, that he, maybe he went into a trance, nobody really knows, but the idea is that he allowed this creative force, this higher part of ourselves, this higher creative part of ourselves to flow through. And so with that said, what with that realization, I continued to use Vivation while I would get a sketchbook out. I finally broke down and went and bought an actual notebook. And I can't even begin to tell you how activating that was. It was just something about it like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this, I think I was afraid that if I started to draw and started to do painting and things like that, that I would forego everything else and end up a starving artist. I mean, it was really acute. And so, but I brought the notebook out, and when I felt something creative come up, I would start to do it. And when I would get those activated feelings telling me I shouldn't do this, and the feelings were usually sadness mostly, and I would work through that. And I noticed, and I'm not trained, I wasn't trained, zero training. I wasn't one of those art kids in college or school or in elementary school. Those kids, see those kids, they draw the perfect, Mickey Mouse. I was definitely not one of those kids. If you saw my drawings, they were chicken scratch mostly. So I had no training at all. But what I noticed over time of doing this is, even though technically my art wasn't particularly good, I noticed that I was expressing something that was really beautiful. I'm like, wow, there's something that's actually me, something that came out of me, something that I could look at it. I could come back to it a month later and look at it, and it would still, like it would activate these beautiful feelings in me. I knew what I was trying to create. And so I started this process. This started in maybe 2010, 11, something like that. And then I came across an artist by the name of Amanda Sage. She's a visionary artist. She's probably the second most well-known visionary artist in the world, a second only to Alex Gray. And I contacted her and said, I really want to learn how to do art. Do you have any recommendations? And she said, could you send me some of your portfolio? And I was like, oh my God, like, are you kidding me? So I went ahead and I took some pictures of some sketches that I had done. And I went ahead and I sent them to her. And she says, holy cow, you have vision. There's something beautiful coming out of you. You just need training. And she said, this next summer in Italy, there's a month-long painting workshop called the Mish Technic Workshop. And it's part of a lineage of classic art masters, including Ernst Fuchs. And I finally got up the courage to decide I was going to do it. And I paid the money, got a plane ticket, and flew to Italy a year later and went through technical training with the Vienna Academy of Visionary Art. And while I was there, it was like a month long. It's this beautiful place called Torre Superiore in the Alps. And while I was there, they said, hey, if anybody knows how to do yoga or breathing or anything like that, there's a studio upstairs and you're welcome to let everybody know about it. So I thought, oh, this would be cool. I've been teaching Vivation for a number of years now. So I decided to put my name on the roster. And since nobody had heard of Vivation, nobody showed up, or like one person. Keep in mind, there's 20 people, 20 artists that were at this workshop. I think one guy from French guy showed up and said, I'll give it a shot. And so I took the 90 minutes that I had with him and I gave him the best Vivation session I could give him. And he had his socks rocked off. He was like, wow, this was amazing. You could feel it. It's titillating. You could feel all that tingling of aliveness that we call it, that subtle body, that energy, that bliss that you experience when you do conscious connected breath. And he was like, wow, that's really cool. So at lunchtime, he's telling everybody about it. And so the next time I did a class, I had like 5 people show up. And then by the 3rd week, I had like 12 or 14 people showing up. And then by the 4th week, everybody was there, including the 2 teachers or people that were running the school and Amanda Sage herself. So I thought, holy cow. So I gave them all a Vivation session. And again, they were all amazed. So much so that Lawrence Karuna, who's the founder of the Vienna Academy, said, hey, I would really like you to come to, hold on, I looked like a note, maybe somebody's saying something about my sound, hold on. So it says, sound's not very good, can you do something about it? Yeah, one moment, please. Okay, hopefully you can hear me better. I got it turned all the way up. So he said, oh, good. So he said, Paul, this is amazing. While I was doing the Vivation session, I saw color after color after color. My visionary, like it was just like, wow, the floodgate had opened. And he said, I would love for you to come to Vienna to teach Vivation as part of our, be an instructor at the school, but be the breathwork guy, be the Vivation guy. Good, less reverb. So I'm like, wow, okay. And he says, and in exchange, we will allow you to attend the school for free. And I'm like, how great is that? And he said, oh, and by the way, we have friends in Vienna. They can promote you all over town. So you'll not only be able to attend the school for free, you'll be able to essentially live in Vienna for free the entire time for a full year, going to art school. So here I am in Vienna at the Visionary Academy of Art. And I'm like, I can't believe it. I'm pinching myself. I've wanted to do this my whole life. And we get to sit to painting for real. And I'll never forget it. I got to a point where my painting, and I'll show you the painting here in a minute. Robin's been kind enough to give me the ability to screen share. So I'm going to share with you guys some of my art, a little bit about my journey there. So I remember working on this painting and just getting to the point where I finally hit my limit. You know, self-esteem. I'm like, I'm no good. You know, I can't do this. I don't know why I'm doing this. You know, all that sadness, 40 plus years of sadness came welling up. And I had to leave the studio and I went next door to this museum where there was nobody around. And I just sat on the floor and sobbed. And I just let go of all of this pain and grief and blocks around the creative process. And again, I was doing Vivation. That was like key. The breath is key. And before I forget, the word breath, respiration, guess where it comes from? Inspiration. In fact, in the old days in Greek and Latin, the word breath and breathing was basically synonymous with spirit or the creative life force. And so even 2,500 years ago in antiquity, they understood that the breath was a central part of not only our ability to just be alive, but that it was our portal to this creative divine spark. So anyway, I let go of all this pain. I come back in and I couldn't leave the studio. Everybody left by 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I was there till 3 in the morning and I had to get a cab to get back there. So, okay, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys some of my art. So I'll start with some of these sketches I did before I had any training. So let's see here. Give me a minute just to pull it up. So this was a sketch that I had done. I had gotten a notebook and it's just random scribblings, but this is pretty far along as far as not trained, to the point where I was able to, okay, why is it not around? Give me a second, Robin. I'm just trying to, let me go to share screen. Where does it go? There it is. Okay. So this is just my notebook, and it was just a pen, and I would just sit down and just start drawing with no intention of what I was going to draw, and just continue to draw and draw and draw. And I ended up filling up this whole notebook with just sort of abstract or far out sort of things, and just allowed my vision to go wherever it wanted to go, just not letting it, just go where it wanted to go. And so I filled up this notebook. This is about the extent of my art skill prior to me going to actual art school. Okay. And then the very first thing that we had to do when we got to Italy is Amanda Sage required us to do a self-portrait. And she thought, well, this is the whole idea of doing a self-portrait, was that you have to sort of confront your own demons. You have to be able, if you want to be able to paint well, you should start by painting yourself and reflecting on that. And I thought, wow, okay. So I remember everybody was pretty nervous about that idea. And just give me a second to find that. And so I sat to work, and I won't go through the long process of how you paint this, but it's called the Mish technique. And so this is my very first oil painting that I ever did. But I was under the tutelage of some of the best artists in the world. And let me show you that now. And the idea here was to paint ourselves, not as accurately. The idea was to paint our face as accurately as possible, but the rest you could just use your imagination. Okay. So this is my very first oil painting. It's actually acrylic. So what you do here, we started with acrylic, and you just do what's called the underpainting. And it was on a wood canvas board. And then after you kind of get the acrylic, the basic colors and shapes right, you finish it off with oil paint. So this is my first self-portrait that I ever did, first painting I ever did, really, oil painting. And then the painting that I did in Vienna, let me go ahead and pull that up. And this painting I took this with my phone at the time, and this is in 2015. So I apologize for the quality or the detail. It's not a very good picture. I should have had a nice camera in those days. And let me go ahead and show you this painting. So this painting is the one that I started in Vienna, and I got really stuck on it. I thought, oh, I can't paint, and I don't know what I'm doing. And it didn't look anything like this initially. And that's when I kind of went into the museum, and I sobbed, and I went through this sort of healing process. And when I came back, I painted not all of this, but I got the faces done that night. Each face took me about 4 hours. So it took approximately, was that 4 to like 8? So about 30 hours just to get the faces painted. And then the rest of it took another 40 to 50 hours. So this is about 100 hours of painting, 150 hours, something like that. So from there, I went to digital art. And so I've been using this painting program called Coral Painter. And with Coral Painter, it's allowed me to take my creative vision even further. And let me just show you some of those that I've done. So these are in the last like 5 years, maybe. I apologize. I have slow upload speeds here in Wyoming, so it may take a minute for it to show up, guys. There it goes. So this is a painting I did It's a digital art painting, and I used Coral Painter. And so this took probably, again, something like 200 hours to do in Coral Painter. Let's see here. And what I'm painting here is sort of my vision of how I'd like to live. And so when you do breath work, when you're able to let go of your negative emotions and all the blocks that are there, the idea is you can allow your deepest vision to sort of come forth, and you can courageously start to paint or draw or manifest. Maybe you're not going to be creative in terms of a painter. Maybe you'd be creative in terms of what you do in the world. There's many, many different ways that we can be creative. But the idea here is that as we become more creative, as we allow that creativity to flourish in ourselves, our entire life changes. We become more a creative person. We're able to live life creatively, and we're able to sort of be more in alignment with our fondest dream, as Jim used to call it. So much so that Jim actually wrote a book on creativity, Vivation Creativity, called Your Fondest Dream. It was the second book he ever wrote. And I apologize, I have no idea if this is showing up because my speeds are so low, so it may take forever. Okay, so while I'm waiting for this to load, because again, I don't know if these are loading up, is what I'd like everybody to do is to, for the remaining part of our time, what I'm going to do is guide you guys through some experiential exercises of Vivation, and we're going to intersperse that with some creative exercises. So if you guys want to go and grab a pen, pencil, or a piece of paper, we're going to do some exercises over the next hour or so. Okay, I'll stop sharing. Okay. So I believe that, so I just want to just sort of summarize. So here I am, some kid that, and I wish I had drawings so I could show you when I was in high school or even college. They were awful. Again, I have no training of any kind, just the aspiration to be an artist. And then Vivation gave me the inspiration to be an artist. And it not only gave me the inspiration, but it allowed me to finally express it. So I would like to share with you guys, or at least sort of get you to begin that journey. There's no way I could teach you Vivation in an hour and a half, but I think that I can at least give you some training today to get you a sense of how this process works, how you can start healing those negative emotions that come up, and how you can use that in a creative way. And so without further ado, magical images, thank you. I really appreciate the comments. So without further ado, what I'd like to do now, and I'm just going to assume that nobody here has done conscious connected circular breathing. So before we do that, I'd like to explain Vivation. So Vivation isn't just a breathing technique. In fact, it's much more than that. It's a feeling-based meditation. The idea of Vivation, the result of Vivation, is the ability to efficiently and permanently resolve, or what we call integrate, any kind of negative emotion or experience. And so the most important part of doing Vivation is the ability to stay present with whatever feelings are coming up in a session. And so the first thing I'd like to teach you guys before we do the breathwork practice itself is a little bit more about how to get into the feeling, learning how to become more embodied, and learning how to cultivate detailed feeling awareness. So when everybody's ready, I'd like everybody to close their eyes. And we're just going to start with the simplest exercise. Just close your eyes and go into your space. And I would like you to give your fullest attention to your left foot. So whatever's going on in your mind, don't worry about that. Just do your best to bring all of your awareness to your left foot. And just feel your left foot in as much detail as you can. And as you're doing that, notice any feelings or sensations in your left foot that are asking for your attention the most. And give those feelings and sensations your fullest attention. Now I'd like you to focus on an even smaller area. So please give your fullest attention to your left big toe. And just feel your left big toe in as much detail as you can. And really just give it your fullest attention. Carefully, carefully. If you get caught up in thoughts or distractions, no worries. Just gently bring your awareness back to your left big toe. And notice any notice any, oh, there's people talking.
Yeah, I don't think it.
So notice any feeling or sensation in your left big toe that's asking for your attention the most. Okay, so now I'd like you to focus on an even larger area. So I'd like you to give your fullest attention to your entire left leg, from your hip to your toes. Just feel your left leg in as much detail as you can. And just notice all the sensations in your left leg. And just feel your left leg in as much detail as possible. Just a second, I have an unhappy cat. So just continue to feel your left leg in as much detail as possible. One moment, please. And now what I'd like you to do is focus on feeling your entire body. Just notice what this present moment feels like in your body right now. So essentially you're doing a body scan. So just notice any feeling in your body, starting from the top of your head to the tips of your fingers and toes. And just notice any feeling or sensation that's the most prominent for you in this moment. The feeling could be just as simple as the pressure of the chair you're sitting on. The idea here is we're not looking for a feeling that's not there necessarily. but rather focusing on the feeling that is already there. And this simple practice may seem underwhelming or boring even. However, the simple act of bringing your awareness to your body and noticing what the most prominent or strongest feeling is in your body, moment to moment, is one of the most powerful things you can do. And the reason for that is it brings you totally into your body, into what's actually happening for real. And this is an important piece when we have negative emotions come up. When a negative emotion comes up, it can seem overwhelming and we have all this thoughts and stories around it. But if we can simply shift to noticing what it feels like in the body at the raw physical sensation level, then we start to cut through all of that BS, all of that negative talk, and see the source of it. And we become more familiar and we're able to cultivate that unconditional kindness and awareness with the feelings. Okay, so you can open your eyes. Okay, so this next exercise is to help you see that any feeling that you have is actually changing all the time. And this is the most important part. One of the main reasons that we have an experience of negativity is the perception that the feeling is stuck. There's actually two qualities, stuckness and heaviness, or stuckness and solidity. So we're going to solve the stuckness problem right now. So I'll demonstrate what you're going to do. So what you'll do is you'll take a finger, and with your other hand, finger and thumb, is you're going to grab your finger like this, and then you're going to put it on your lap. And I want you to apply a steady pressure. Don't squeeze it too hard. Just a nice steady pressure. Relax the rest of your body as much as you can. And close your eyes. And I want you to give that sensation you're creating now your fullest attention. And the idea here is to tune that feeling in that you're creating well enough to notice the subtle changes that are already happening in that sensation from moment to moment. For example, you might feel your pulse. You might notice that there are subtle changes in the pressure, even though you are holding the pressure as steady as you can. You might notice that your attention is shifting back and forth between the holding hand and the held hand. Or you might notice warmth or coolness or something else. So here we are, we've created one of the simplest sensations imaginable. But notice that as you tune it in well enough, you can start to see that the feeling itself is always changing moment to moment to moment. And this is true for all of our feelings. So with every feeling that comes up during a Vivation breathwork session, you want to tune that feeling in well enough to notice the subtle changes that are already happening from moment to moment. And when we do this, the stuckness, I imagine I'm putting it in quotes, the stuckness dissipates. It dissolves. You see through the smoke, you see through the mirage of stuckness. And this is what is meant by being in the present moment. And it is the very essence of vivation practice. And you can open your eyes. Okay, so before I go much further, does anyone have any questions? You're welcome to drop them in the chat or any issues with that. I just want to make sure that everybody, so what we just went through is what's called the first point to remember, which is explore the subtle changes. The idea here is when we're doing the vibration breathwork practice, we want to be able to tune whatever feeling is coming up in well enough to notice the subtle changes. And when we do that, that's where all the magic happens. That's where all the novelty happens. And this is key. This is like the portal that opens up this magical world. When people are doing vivation and they stay on board, the reason for that is because they're not paying attention to the feeling itself. So if you can pay attention to the feeling itself, you'll notice that it's always changing. Okay. So let's go ahead and close your eyes again, and we're going to unify essentially the whole thing together. So just do a couple of minute exercise. So close your eyes and go back into your space. And this time I'd like you to just scan through your entire body and awareness. Just notice what this moment feels like in your body. Even if it's just the pressure of the chair. And just notice any feelings or sensations that are coming up and are the most obvious to you in this moment. Notice the feeling or sensation that's asking for your attention the most, moment to moment. And you want to focus in on that feeling and tune that feeling in well enough to notice the subtle changes that are already happening in it from moment to moment. If another feeling becomes more prominent, then just shift to focusing on the new feeling and tune that feeling in well enough to notice the subtle changes from moment to moment. So as the feeling changes or moves around, just follow it with your awareness. Okay, and open your eyes. So we have 3 points to remember in Vivation. We have 5 elements, which are circular breathing. So it's a foundational breathwork practice. The second element is complete relaxation. The third element is awareness in detail, which is awareness in detail of the feelings in your body, moment to moment to moment. The fourth element is integration into ecstasy. And what we really mean by that is being open and receptive to whatever bliss or positivity is already there. Even if it's just a little bit, it's just the willingness to be receptive to whatever feeling is coming up and being willing to enjoy it as much as you can, even if it's a little bit. So Jim came up with 3 points to remember. And the first one is explore the subtle changes, which is what we just did. So the second point to remember is inhale through the strongest feeling. So here's when we bring in the breathwork practice itself. So first, the basic concept. Since you're already doing this body scan and you're already tuning into your body, and you're focusing on that part of your body where the feeling is strongest in the moment, you want to pull your inhales in through that part of your body, just as if that part of your body was permeable to air. Now, obviously, you either breathe in and out through your nose or mouth. But in this case, just imagine that the air is coming into your body through wherever the feeling is the strongest, just as if that part of your body was permeable to air. And what you're doing is, as you receive the inhale through that feeling, you're receiving whatever that feeling has to offer you. And this is where all the magic is coming about. So when I talk about creativity and art, like when you really inhale through that strongest feeling, is when you start to experience the magic of the present moment. And as the feelings change or move around, you just change where you're pulling the air into your body. Okay. So with that said, the type of breathing that we do in Vivation is called circular breathing. And there's lots of different types of circular breathing. In Vivation, circular breathing meets the following 3 criteria. The first is that there are no pauses between the inhales or the exhales. The idea is on the exhale, you let all the air out. There's no air in, you take your big inhale. Once that last molecule of air is inhaled, then you let go and you have an exhale again. So it's just connected, conscious connected breathing is what they call that. The second quality is the exhale is totally and completely relaxed. So we don't have a controlled exhale. It's not like in 4 seconds, out 4 seconds. No matter how long it takes you to do the inhale, just let the exhale come out on its own. Generally speaking, the more air you take in, the longer the exhale is going to take. But you don't force it out and you don't control it. Just allow it to come out in a completely relaxed way. As long as you have a relaxed exhale when you're doing circular breathing, you'll never go into hyperventilating or tetany. If you've ever done breath work and you get tetany, what happens is you're getting a buildup of carbon dioxide and other things. But if you allow your exhale to be completely relaxed, no matter how full and fast you're breathing, you will never experience tetany because the relaxed exhale is letting go, letting flow. This is about that creative flow. We want to relax and let go and allow whatever's there to be there. Think of every exhale as an opportunity to let go of whatever you're holding on to. So imagine you're having a negative experience, you inhale through it and you're like, oh, I really don't like this. This feels horrible. Wow, I just really don't like that. But the beauty of it is on the exhale, you get to let it all go. Let go of your resistance around it and just allow it to flow. Lastly, when we're doing Vivation, you're going to either do nose breathing or mouth breathing. So you don't do nose in through your nose, out through your mouth. That's perfectly fine. There's lots of breathing techniques that use that. In Vivation, we either do in and out through our nose or in and out through our mouth. Okay. So later in Vivation training, we teach you how to adjust the breathing rhythm to develop greater rapport with the feeling that comes up. But for right now, if you're new to this, we're just going to have you practice slow, full circular breathing. So what I'd like everybody to do is close their eyes. And for the next minute, I want you to breathe as slowly and fully as you can, and really try to slow that inhale down and expand your diaphragm and rib cage to really get the biggest inhale you can. And when you can't take another molecule of air in, just totally let it go. And when that last molecule of air is exhaled, take another big inhale. And let's just do this together for another minute. Remember to let the exhale out. Don't control it. It should come out pretty fast. And just continue to do this. Nice, slow, and full circular breathing. And we're going to tie everything we've done up to this point together. So as you're doing slow, full circular breathing, I want you to scan through your entire feeling awareness and find the strongest sensation or feeling in this moment. Notice where in your body that feeling or sensation is located in this moment, and begin to pull your inhales in through that part of your body, just as if that part of your body was permeable to air. So now you're inhaling through the strongest feeling, filling it up, and then completely letting it go on the exhale. And as you do that, just explore the subtle changes that happen in that feeling from moment to moment. And as the feeling changes or moves around, just follow it with your awareness. When the feeling moves, simply change the point of entry of air into your body. I mentioned there are two qualities that are the main reasons we experience negativity and suffering. The first is the perception that the feeling is stuck, quality of stuckness. So when we can tune a feeling in well enough to notice the subtle changes, then the perception of stuckness evaporates. The second quality that's often a source of negativity and suffering is heaviness or solidity, like we're being crushed or suffocated by the feeling. And the second point to remember helps with that. When we inhale through that strongest feeling, what we're really doing is reminding ourselves that the feeling itself is not solid. It's actually a spacious, luminous pattern of energy. So just keep circular breathing, inhaling through your strongest feeling, and then completely relax and let it go on the exhale. And I'm going to introduce to you now, as you're doing this, the third point to remember. Enjoy this moment as much as you can. So as you're doing this circular breathing, as you're inhaling through the strongest feeling and letting it all go on the exhale, notice that you are already enjoying the present moment to some extent. If you weren't enjoying the present moment to some extent, that would mean that you are in infinite agony. And I can tell by looking at you, those of you that I can see, that you are not in infinite agony. Therefore, you must be enjoying the present moment to some extent. So notice that you are already enjoying the present moment to some extent. And notice that by noticing that, you can begin to enjoy it even more. And you can use this as a skill. So the third point to remember in Vivation is enjoying this moment as much as you can. So you're inhaling through the strongest feeling, opening up and being receptive, feeling the details of the feeling and letting it go. And notice that you're already enjoying this moment to some extent. And now I want you to focus even more on how much you are already enjoying the present moment and become even more receptive to the pleasure that is there and enjoy the present moment even more. Kind of like savoring a fine wine or chocolate. You want, what you're doing is you're inhaling through that feeling, embracing the present moment, and just savoring it as much as you can. The idea here is to squeeze that feeling or milk this moment for every drop of joy you can. So you're all doing great. Now I want you to enjoy it even more than that. Like really go for it. So you're inhaling through the strongest feeling, noticing all the subtle changes that are happening, totally relaxing and letting go on the exhale. And just notice even more how much the present moment is enjoyable. And just for fun, now I'd like you to double the amount you're enjoying the present moment. Like really try to do that. So double the amount you're enjoying the present moment. Make every effort to do that. The idea is to just be more and more open and receptive to the inherent joy that is available to you right here and now in every moment. Very good. Now enjoy it even more than that. So not just a lot, infinitely. I know this sounds crazy, but I want you to try to enjoy the present moment infinitely. So you're doing the circular breathing. You're inhaling through that strongest feeling wherever it is in your body. Opening up to enjoying, expanding, really savoring it, squeezing it, milking it for every drop of joy you can, and then totally let it go on the exhale. And I want you to enjoy this moment infinitely. Like really go for it. Now, when most people try to enjoy the present moment infinitely, they find they cannot quite do so. They find that there's something there that's limiting their ability to enjoy. That's okay. Just keep trying to enjoy the present moment infinitely. And let that put you in touch with whatever is there that is limiting your ability to enjoy. So it might be a feeling in your body, or it might be a thought or concern in your mind. If it is a feeling in your body, then focus in on that feeling. If it is a thought or concern in your mind, no problem, but notice how you feel about it and focus in on that feeling. So whatever feeling is there that's limiting your ability to enjoy, I want you to tune that feeling in well enough to notice the subtle changes that are already happening in that feeling from moment to moment. And begin to pull each inhale in through that part of your body, into that feeling. And when you do that, notice that even the feeling that seems to be limiting your ability to enjoy is not infinitely unpleasant. Even if that feeling is only 1% pleasurable, enjoy it as much as you can. So the 3 points to remember of Vivation are: explore the subtle changes in the strongest feeling from moment to moment. Inhale through your strongest feeling. And enjoy this moment as much as you can. So when you explore the subtle changes in the strongest feeling, it allows you to see through the illusion of stuckness, to see that the feeling is always changing in subtle and exquisite ways from moment to moment. Every feeling, every moment contains within it an infinite amount of joy, an exquisite uniqueness, like a novelty of joy. So even if the feeling doesn't seem pleasurable, you want to open up to the feeling as though it were pleasurable. Be open to the feeling being enjoyable in a totally new and unusual way. And whatever you're feeling that doesn't feel so good, just remember, you get to let it all go on the exhale. Every exhale is completely relaxed. Second point to remember, inhale through the strongest feeling. As we inhale through that strongest feeling, we're opening up to embracing that feeling as it is, which is cultivating unconditional kindness and love and patience for that feeling. And when we inhale through it, what we're really doing is reminding ourselves that the feeling itself is not heavy. It's not solid. It's permeable to air. That any feeling that comes up is in fact a spacious, luminous, even radiant pattern of energy. And that's where the third point to remember comes in. We want to enjoy this moment as much as we can. So as we open up to receiving whatever that feeling has to offer us, and inhaling through it, we become open and receptive to the feeling being enjoyable in a totally new and unusual way. And its inherent luminosity, its inherent radiance, its inherent joy, and its exquisite beauty all becomes available to us. It all becomes apparent. We don't have to do anything to enjoy the present moment because the present moment is already enjoyable. It's really just a matter of letting go of whatever you're holding on to. So just continue to cultivate unconditional kindness for yourself in the presence of the feeling as you inhale through it, and then let it all go on the exhale. And just be really kind with yourself. Patient. You're not trying to do anything here. Just allow it to do what it needs to do. And this is important. No matter what the feeling is that's coming up, remember this. That feeling is not a verdict of value. It is just a pattern of energy passing through. So just relax in the presence of the feeling. Find a way to enjoy it as much as you can and let it go. So let go, let flow. And we've come full circle now to the creative process. Life itself within you is a wellspring of continuous novelty, a continuous stream of novel joy and bliss that's burbling like a burbling spring of ongoing, novel, creative bliss. All we have to do is be relaxed, surrender in the presence of the feeling, let go of trying to figure it out, let go of trying to change it, and just enjoy this present moment unconditionally, just as it is. Everything will evolve in its own time, and every feeling will resolve if you just relax and let go. You don't have to do anything to heal a feeling. Just feeling itself is healing. Feeling is healing. Okay, so just take one more minute and just in a couple of minutes, we'll come back with our eyes open and we'll start some creative stuff. So just use this next 2 minutes. Relax. If you're feeling a little lightheaded, that's okay. Just relax. You can always let out a big sigh or two on the exhale. Just let go of whatever you're holding on to. Ah. Hmm. And just enjoy this moment unconditionally. Okay. So before I transition into showing you how to use this process and to help you with creative, to help you open your creative flow, I'd like to open the floor for questions. I don't know if you guys want to type it in to chat or open up. But before I begin going into the actual creative aspect of this work, I want to make sure that I've answered any questions that people have about the basic practice of Vivation. I'll just give it another minute. Hi, Linda.
Hi, I have a question. How long would you do that? It was beautiful. Before you would start some creative thing that you're going into next, but what is the time that you would suggest? Of
Yes.
course, you do it.
Yes. So that, I'll answer that. There's two different ways to answer that. So the first one is, how often do I just vibe with this? What we call it, to do Vivation is to vibe. Well, I always start in my morning with the practice. It's like one of the first things I do, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes to start my day. The rest of the day, I'm just using it here and there as needed. So, with Vivation, you realize that suffering is optional. And somebody actually asked us, can you use this for severe chronic pain? The answer is a resounding yes. I have a friend who tends to say that anything that draws attention to her pain makes her feel worse. So what we realize is that we experience pain. I mean, that's part of life, but with Vivation, what we do is we learn to relax in the presence of it and be open and receptive. And it turns out that about 90+% of our suffering around pain is our resistance to it. And so pain is there, but suffering is optional, as Jim would say. But when it comes to doing the creative stuff, when you get to a point where your practice is really good, meaning you're efficient, that means that any feeling that comes up, you can integrate it within a minute or so. Then what I always recommend is, and I just do it when I need it. So usually I'll start with some Vivation, and then I'll start the creative process. In fact, one of the things I teach in my classes after the 7 lessons that we do is we do something called Vivation in action, where we're taking this practice out onto the street, out into the public, into the park, into the hardware store. You can go anywhere with us. The idea is you can do this anytime, anywhere you need it. And so, for example, when I was in Vienna, making that painting, I would be painting, and invariably I would get activated. Something would come up, some emotion, some physical sensation where I wasn't feeling so great. It's like I'd close my eyes if I had to, notice the strongest feeling, enjoy the exquisite details of the feeling, relax in the presence of the feeling, find a way to enjoy it, and then move on if it integrated. Or I would be vibing while I'm painting with my eyes open. You know, actually, as I'm actually doing the creative process that becomes one and the same, the creative act, the actual act of my hand moving the paintbrush around while I was doing the breathwork practice would happen simultaneously. And some of the people in art school would make fun of me. Paul's doing the Vivation stuff again, you know? And of course, I was teaching many of them how to do it. So, but it was amazing because it allowed that creative flow to continue, just like it happens within ourselves. I hope I answered both questions. One that's from Syra, as well as, yeah, you can just use it as you need it, really. Okay.
Thank you.
So you're very welcome. Any other questions before we start the next part of the workshop? Okay. So what I'd like everybody to do is just grab a piece of paper or two with a pen or pencil.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do today is I want to get you guys, maybe some of you are already artists, which is great, but this isn't about necessarily being an artist, but rather this is just the exercises I'm going to do today is to show you how you can use this practice to really start to open up that creative flow and allow your fondest dream, your deepest wish, your highest vision to start to come out of you, to start to manifest, to start get clarity around it. And maybe even agency, where now that you have that vision, you're able to start taking action because it's so in alignment with who you really are and it's what you're meant to do. So before we begin, so just make sure you have, a pencil or pen, piece of paper, and we'll go ahead and we're going to close our eyes again and just go into your space. And I just want you to take a full minute to imagine what your ideal life would look like or what your fondest dream is. Maybe it's for you, maybe it's for someone else. What is your fondest dream? And it doesn't matter how realistic it is. Maybe it's like, I wish I was living on another planet or traveling around in a spaceship. Or I wish that the earth was like heaven on earth. So imagine maybe what heaven looks like to you. What does heaven on earth look like to you? The idea here is just to really start to tune in to what your fondest dream, your fondest wish is. And feel free to bring in the breathwork practice now. So as you're sort of calling up, evoking, imagining, envisioning your fondest dream, notice what feelings get activated in your body. If you have a lot of negative thoughts around it, or any thoughts at all, that's okay. But I want you to notice what this moment feels like in your body, just like we just went through. And just continue to imagine, visualize, or if you're a verbal person, articulate what your fondest dream is. Noticing any activated feelings that come up as part of that. And now I want to take 2 minutes and we're just going to vibe on that. So just hold that vision in your heart, in your mind, your inner mind's eye. Notice what it feels like in your body. And I want you to begin to inhale through that strongest feeling. And you're being open and receptive of whatever that feeling is trying to tell you. Again, you're not trying to figure it out. You're just wanting to be open and receptive. It's all about receiving and listening unconditionally. And as you inhale through that, notice all the details of the feeling. And then on the exhale, let it all go. Let go of whatever pain, whatever struggle, whatever resistance you have around it. And enjoy this moment as much as you can. It's as simple as the 3 points. Explore the subtle changes. Inhale through the strongest feeling. Enjoy this moment as much as you can. Remember, you get to let go of whatever is there on the exhale. Now you can sort of switch back to that creative aspect. And just for another 30 seconds to a minute here, I want you to really get clear as much as you can what your fondest dream is. And you're welcome to switch back and forth if you want. So the idea is you're inhaling through that strongest feeling, relaxing and letting go, finding a way to enjoy this moment unconditionally, and just allow. It's about allowing. You're allowing, surrendering, opening up to being receptive, allowing this higher part of yourself, this fondest dream, to sort of come up. Notice how good it feels just to do this at all, to feel this at all. And when you're ready, open your eyes and take the next 2 or 3 minutes, and I want you to either draw it out or diagram it or write words or whatever, anything you can. And be as creative as you want. Don't hold yourself back. And just express on this piece of paper as best you can, visually, verbally, diagrams, art, words, poetry, whatever. Anything that somehow expresses on a piece of paper your fondest dream. And as you're doing that, if you feel something come up again, maybe feeling of sadness or longing, some kind of pain, anger, maybe frustration, you can always return to the practice, closing your eyes again, staying with the strongest feeling, inhaling through it, letting go of your resistance, letting go of the pain, letting go of the struggle on the exhale. being open and receptive to the feeling, being enjoyable in a new and unusual way. And just notice how that might change or shift or transform what you're doing on the piece of paper. And feel free to throw the piece of paper out and start again. You know, you're welcome to do this however you want. There's no wrong here. And if you're feeling this beautiful thing coming up, like, do your best to express it. No matter how silly it might be, or playful it might be, or whimsical even. Go ahead and do that for another minute. And while you're doing that, I'm going to show you another piece of art that I did where I was doing exactly what we're doing now. Now, keep in mind, I was doing this over like 100 hours, but I want to show you sort of what can happen when you really do this, when you allow yourself to heal whatever feelings are coming up and allow that deepest, fondest wish to come up. So this digital painting that I did, for me, what I was trying to imagine is what would be the most beautiful bedroom. Like, what would my ideal life look like? Like, what would my bedroom look like? What would what would the room look like? What would it look like around me? The idea is that I'm some kind of, the idea here that and it's part of a bigger vision, which is that I'm in a village in the forest or in the trees with maybe 50 to 60 other beautiful people in this village. And with tender care and craftsmanship, I construct this abode, this home. And I just continued to do Vivation and just allowed myself to draw. And I probably did many different, I went through a lot of editing, I'd do something and change it. Did multiple variations, but over time, what happens is it starts to cohere or converge, if you will. So there's this divergent aspect to creativity where we just want to be free with it and allow all the ideas to come up. And then there's a convergence aspect where you converge on a specific manifestation or creative sort of expression of what that fondest dream is. And it can start with as simple as a sketch. For me, this here started with me sketching it on a piece of paper. And if I showed it to somebody, it was nothing remarkable about it. It was like a really loose, not very artistically beautiful thing. It was more of a diagram with a bunch of words, really. So it was a mixture of sketches with some words. So would anybody like to share some of what they've come up with? I know that this can be, one of the things I want to say about this is when you get into touch with this, it can be so tender, so personal, private, deep. It's like your fondest wish. and it's so fragile that you feel like maybe it could be like snuffed out, like a tiny little flame. You could just, and so if that's the case, don't feel like you have to share. You know, if it is fragile, if it's this very tender thing, almost ephemeral, that's okay. I want you to nurture it, just like you found a small little kitten, just like same with your feelings. If you, whatever that deepest heartfelt wish is, I want you to just be super fond and let that fire, that small little flame, just start to burn brighter. So is there anybody that wants to say something or express anything before we go on? Okay. So during that exercise, I talked about the divergent aspect of creativity and the convergent aspect. And this is true with anything. Let's say, I mean, it could be something as, oh, I don't know, let's say you're working for a company and you're trying to design a new widget, or you're trying to come up with a new business strategy, or maybe you're trying to build a new chicken coop. It could be anything. But you're not sure where to go yet. So the first part of the creative process is to be divergent. The idea is just spitball, you know, get a whiteboard out, just throw out the whiteboard, throw out the piece of paper, anything at all, anything and everything that comes to you, and just allow that to come out. And you might get like 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 different variations on a theme. So you're diverging. And you get sort of, the idea is to just not hold back. So the divergence is a very important aspect of the creative process. If you're already clear about what it is you're trying to do, great. But otherwise, if you're not really sure, divergence is the first place. Just allow things to diverge and flourish. You get different ideas, you can write them down. Once you've done that, then the next part is, okay, what part of this is beautiful? Can I take this variation over here and maybe a little piece of that over there? And you can start to look at these ideas. And then that's where the filtration comes in, or the sortation, is you're starting to converge more and more and more, filtering out all that's not perfectly aligned with your highest vision. And you converge onto something that is more concrete until you get something singular, potentially, or maybe a few things. It's possible that when you have this big vision, that you end up with 15 or 20 different beautiful things or different ideas or projects. But because we have such a limited time, at some point, if you want to get it really manifested, you have to converge onto a specific solution. And that solution could be from all these different disparate pieces that you've come up with in the divergence process. So to give you an example of how divergence works, we're going to do a slightly different exercise, probably not quite as visionary as our fondest dream, but I just want you to see how this process works. So what I want you to do.
Excuse me, Paul.
And yes.
Excuse me, Paul. I don't know how to raise my hand.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah.
So
No.
I'm really loving what you're doing. And it said that it's going to be an hour and a half, and I noticed it's already 1:30. So do you know the length and the recording? Will we have the recording available?
Yes. Robin, do you want to speak on that? There is going to be a recording available.
Here I am. Yeah, we do record this. We put it up. We've got our own YouTube channel, the IBF Breathing Arts. And I discussed it with Paul before. You know, if we go over a little bit, if you can still stay with us, we've got another half hour really until we've done what we need to do. But afterwards, I will give you the link to the YouTube channel we have, and you can find it up there. Okay.
Oh, so it'll be on YouTube. Okay.
Thanks for reminding me of the time, Rosemary. I get carried away. I didn't realize
Yeah.
we'd hit the 90-minute mark.
And
So
I would like to just make a comment. So, Paul,
yes,
I've been working with you for a while now, a few years now, but I've never seen your artwork. And now that I have seen your artwork, I'm feeling like, well, I'm feeling totally, what's the word? I mean, you're so beyond me that I'm thinking, well, how could this relate to me when you're such a, I mean, when I see you're a genius, I mean, it's beyond. So how could it, I mean, can you speak for us, even though you're so creative?
I wish I had photos of my crap that I could show you from 15 years ago. It's like I said, if I had taken that painting of that room, that's a recent thing. I did that in October. I spent the whole month of October in the evenings crafting that. If I had shown that to myself 10 or 15 years ago and said, oh, Paul, by the way, you did this, I'm like, yeah, right. That would have been completely ridiculous. Absolutely. So I think the thing that needs to be appreciated here is it's the time. We're not talking about like all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do any of this. And then I sit down and I vibe and all of a sudden I've got this creative genius coming out of me. It's one of those things that just, it happens over time. It starts to unflower. And that's why we should always be super kind and patient with ourselves, no matter how ridiculously bad quality, and I put that in quotes, our initial expression is, whether it's words or whatever, is that over time, as we allow this process to unfold, and I think this speaks to the power of two things. One, not only our ability or Vivation and its ability to help us let go of these blocks. And I can't even tell you the amount of emotional pain I had around this that prevented me from being creative and expressing myself. And then, so there's that. And then the fact that inside every human being, I truly believe that there is this creative spark. We're all connected to this source. We all have access to it. It's a wellspring that's part of the present moment. And I believe that you and everyone here can, in fact, and if they allow themselves, if they really feel they want to open themselves up in a creative way, have a genius. Everyone here is a genius. They have their own unique sort of connection to this beautiful infinite wellspring. And how that expresses itself in your life could be anything. For me, it tends to be visual art, but it can express it so many different ways. It doesn't have to even be quote unquote creative. It's a matter of that we become more and more in alignment with our true self. And people go, wow, look at this person. They're so like engaged in the world and are doing all these beautiful things. What are they doing? Maybe they're working with kids. Maybe they're doing some kind of restoration, gardening. Imagine all the beautiful things you can do with like restoring, an area and turning it into a beautiful garden. I mean, there's so many different possibilities that we can all bring in our unique way to co-create the world that we want to create. So never lose the faith and the hope. Again, I don't have pictures of my old stuff. I should have been more prepared so that people can see the stuff I did 15 and 20 years ago. And it was pretty much the same as what you would imagine anybody. You get some guy in the bar and say, hey, draw me something. It's pretty much that level. So I want to be mindful of the time. And I know that some people need to go. And so I just want to do one more exercise and then I'll open up the floor because I want to hear from people and have a wonderful conversation. So I want to just do one more exercise. This is a little bit more boring. It's on the divergence aspect. So what I want you to do is close your eyes again. Take a few deep breaths. And I want you, and you're not going to open your eyes yet, so no cheating. It's one of those things. So for the next minute, with your eyes closed, and you're welcome to do the Vivation practice, deep inhales to the strongest feeling, relaxing on the exhale. And I want you to think of as many ways that you can use a paperclip. Just any imaginable possible utility or whimsical way of using a paperclip. What can you do with a paperclip? And you're not going to write it down yet. I just want to put that seed out there, paperclip, something so boring and simple. And you can keep in mind, you can do whatever you want with that paperclip. And you can go right out. You don't even have to think about all the ideas. In fact, you could just focus on the strongest feeling. The fact that I've told you to think of this, forget about trying to find a bunch of ways and just notice what it feels like in your body, that I even suggested this possibility. And when you're ready, I want you to open your eyes and I want you to write down in the next minute, and I'll put a timer on. Let's just go for 2 minutes. I want you to write down every imaginable way you can use a paperclip. Don't hold back. Feel free to write a few ideas down and then go back into the practice. Relaxing on the exhale, and writing a few more ideas down. And this is the divergence I talked about. You're trying to come up with as many different ways to use that paperclip. I'll give you some suggestions too. It could be used to tie something together. It could be used to create a piece of art. It could be used as a weapon, unfortunately, but it can. I mean, a paperclip, if your life depends on it. You could use it to open things. I mean, there's so many things. "30 more seconds, and we'll stop." If you're like most people, this can be quite activating because you're feeling the stress of having to come up with as many ideas. But that's why we have the practice. When those activated feelings come up or that stress comes up of, oh, you got to do it, it's a contest. Okay. Notice the feelings that come up and remember when you leave today that you can use this practice, you can use Vivation to relax and surrender and let go and heal whatever resistances come up in the practice and intention of the creative act, even coming up with cool solutions. So if you're an engineer, this is, can be used in any manner. Okay, so we'll stop at that point. So if anybody wants to type in, so go ahead and look through the list of things that you have and find one or two if you think it's really cool. And if you have a really clever, I'd love to see some of the ideas people came up with for paperclips. Feel free to type in one of your solutions into the chat. Earrings. Oh, there you go. I imagine if you really got some pliers out and you were really careful, and you really smooth it out, you could create some really amazing jewelry from a paperclip. In fact, if you took maybe a bunch of paper clips and you wove them to carving wood. Yeah, there you go. Ring, chain, hair grass, flower sculpture. Yep. Needle. There you go. Tool. Yep. Fence for doll's house, yeah. Yep, you could do the paper clips with a little dent fence. Yeah, that would be great. Decorate Christmas trees. Yeah, it's like you're trying to hang an ornament and you can't find the hook. You could take a paper clip out and ear cleaner, nose picker, reset my Wi-Fi router. There you go. You could take it with that little hole you're supposed to poke. Decorate a cake. Yeah, you could put really cool designs in it. SIM card. Yep. Chain. Yeah, you could chain them together. It's endless, right? This is the whole point. It's endless, right? There's so many things. And this is true of anything. So here's something as boring and as ordinary as a paperclip. And we can create and diverge into endless amounts of things. Okay, so I want to be respectful of the time. And so the remaining time, I would love to hear from anyone as far as the Vivation breathwork practice, about the creative arts, about anything and everything, anything anyone wants to share about their experiences with the breath itself, with the practice itself. So it doesn't have to be necessarily the creative aspect, anything at all.